Well, I decided that I'm not going to give you any background information on Artsakh because I assume as ANC activists you are more or less aware what is the situation in Artsakh. I will say in general terms, I want to concentrate more on activism and how we can join forces to actually reach the desired goals. Artsakh is a place that has got independence. It has been so for 27 and more years, but to this day it is not recognized. Apart from not being recognized, its population is under constant threat of physical extermination from neighboring Azerbaijan. And added to that is also the fact that Artsakh is being isolated from Azerbaijan, and it tries to do it on every sphere of life. And I think that everyone now understands why it is important to actually have Artsakh on the agenda, on the priority agenda of all the grassroots organizations working in the diaspora. Because if we don't, we'll lose the game. Not only the game, but we'll lose the homeland. If we don't, Artsakh could become Nakhichevan. Because as we talked about it, I wouldn't really like to stand here one day or hear someone else standing here and talking about Artsakh in a past tense. So for this, we really have to wake up and try to make sure that we do our best to join our efforts to make Artsakh a place that develops, that gets sustainable development in all spheres of lives. And when I say sustainable development, I'm not excluding the philanthropy as such, because we should not forget that philanthropy has brought us to the place where we can now do where we can ensure sustainability. And in some spheres of life, philanthropy is still needed. Let's take the field of economy, for example. The fact that it is not recognized and we cannot have official ties with other countries, the only route we have with the outside world is through Armenia and through diaspora efforts. And of course, diaspora has more possibilities in a sense because diaspora being the citizens of the given country, they have certain amount of influence and they can actually do more in connecting with the leadership of their country. Economic-wise, I think it's important to realize that Artsakh today, what Artsakh needs today is not actually to be given the fish, but to be given the means to actually do the fishing itself, to do something that will ensure that it can develop and become stronger. And in that sense, there are different spheres of economy that I can give you an example. For example, 10 years ago, none of us could imagine that when we were cut off from electricity in one single day, none of us could imagine that we could actually be self-sufficient on energy resources. We are, and we're not only self-sufficient, but actually starting 2018, Artsakh is exporting electrical energy. So we really have to make sure that we can say this about other spheres of life in Artsakh. It could be housing. We could help to invest in housing and make sure that it is a mutually beneficial project. It doesn't necessarily have to include a recipient and a benefactor. It could be a mutually business-oriented project which will aim to, as I said, ensure sustainable development, to make sure that people have a reason to stay there, that they believe in their future, and they can actually make Artsakh stronger. And I want you to understand that without you, it is impossible, because you are part of that too. Our strength is in fact in you as well, because without you, we couldn't have managed. Like we didn't manage back then when we were having the dark days of war, we needed your help. Now we need your help in actually being with us, advocating our rights, trying to raise awareness about Artsakh in your respective countries, in the US, in other parts of the world. Education. Of course, there are still many philanthropic projects going on. There are more than 100 schools and kindergartens that have been renovated or rebuilt from zero by different benefactors, by different fundraising organizations. However, having done this, we have to ensure sustainability in this sector, and this could involve raising the quality of education in Artsakh, bringing trainers to train the local staff. Because as I said, when you live in a closed society and you don't really have much ties with outside world, your mentality is also becoming closed. And we really need that fresh ideas and fresh workforce, if I could put it that way, from outside. And we know that in the diaspora we have so many renowned professors, teachers, doctors who can come and contribute their time. Sometimes it's actually investing your time into Artsakh's future. It's not always about money. It's about interests to actually be part of that big pan-Armenian issue so that it has a future and not only past. So in this direction, I think we could invite people from diaspora to come and teach at Artsakh State University, or even teach teachers to use new methodology that is being used here in other countries, because our teachers don't usually get a chance to get retrained, because neither UNESCO nor other organizations are really involved in Artsakh, because, as I said, we're not recognized, hence our professionals don't get this professional help needed. In the health sector, and when I say this, that doesn't mean that there are already many projects that are ongoing. For example, only a week ago when Amasya was telling about congressmen and congresswomen visiting Artsakh, on that very days we had doctors from California, from 3 different institutions, the Glendale Adventist, the Chevy Chase Hospital, and the Fresno group of doctors who came there to do 3 things. First of all, it had actually 3 components. Philanthropic one, because they came to actually also donate equipment that they were using. They came to train the local doctors to actually do their job better. And they actually conducted surgical operations on people who could not afford to do it elsewhere or otherwise. So in this one act, we get the combination of 3 things: philanthropy, volunteerism, and also professional quality upgrades that changes people's lives, the lives of actual people. It makes a qualitative change into the society. Another example could be, for example, in the educational sector, so that you can understand how it happens. We have an institution called Yeznik Mozian College in Shushit that was built by the French Armenians. And to this very day, we didn't really have too many specialists when it came to different specialties in construction, like plumbers, and people like that. And this college actually now fits into the demand of the country, because the graduates are very well in demands. They don't have any problem finding jobs, and some of them actually do part-time jobs while studying. The establishing a Paul Eluard Center of Francophonie in Artsakh is another example, helping the education system, developing Francophonie, French-speaking, French language in Artsakh, because we have so many sister city relationships in France, and there are so many contacts that we really need it. And what they do, they actually do professional French language classes for doctors, for diplomats, for various sectors of life, so that Artsakh can actually cooperate full-fledgedly with all these organizations. Or the American Universities Extension Program funded by AGBU is another example of such a good wish, because there are so many people that actually can learn English for free. Because if you're a country wanting to be recognized, you can't afford not to speak English. You really have to speak it to be able to communicate at various levels. And that is what they're doing now, trying to get Artsakh youth, and not only youth, but again, this is professional courses for scholars, for doctors, for teachers, not teachers of English only, but actually for teachers of different, so that they can actually exchange professionally with outside world. There are many such examples, actually. There are examples whereby we can turn to diaspora for an advice, for correction of some sort. For example, we have a long-standing relationship now with the Armenian Bar Association of America, and we're actually in touch with them regularly. And they do not only edit our legal documents when we need to do it, like recently we published a report on International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, and we were really blessed to have them to look it through from legal as well as from the native language point of view, if I could put it that way. And that's not it only. I mean, there are many projects that we do that I cannot speak about right now in order not to harm those things happening, but our Tufenkian Foundation. Again, with them we have projects that they have helped to publish this report, for example, so that we can actually disseminate it in the think tanks and make it more known to the outside world. And not only that, there are things that we do that, again, I cannot really talk openly about, but it is a great help that we receive from them. The Human Rights Defender's Office, of course, is cooperating with them as well. We're having university-to-university contacts, again, with the help of diaspora organizations in different countries. These are different actors, but mostly, actually, I have to say that this is thanks to ANCA as well. Especially, we have good cooperation with ANC Europe, because with them, we do a lot of political work in the European Parliament, and different stakeholders by inviting them to Artsakh and showing what is Artsakh in reality, so that they do not get to believe to Azeri lies. Because seeing once is better than not really knowing what you're talking about. What other aspects we have? Tourism could be another aspect. If every single Armenian could visit Artsakh only once, that could already be a horrific impulse to the development of tourism, because every year the number of tourists is growing, and we try to organize different sorts of events like Konifa, football competition, or Pan-Armenian Games this year was held in Artsakh, part of it was held. And of course the number of tourists has grown thanks to that as well. But also media interest has grown immensely thanks to these events as well. So these are the things that we can actually work together and direct it in the way that they're more targeted and more result-oriented. What is important about all of this is to actually work closely, and I have to say that we in Artsakh have a lot of housework to do as well in this direction. Why do I say that? Because from the same experience, like last year when I was at USC, we had this internship possibility for someone from the mayor's office of Artsakh to come and work in the city council of Los Angeles. Paul Kerkonian and USC have actually jointly created this possibility. But guess what? I returned to Artsakh. We tried to find someone, a single person in the mayor's office who speaks English. No way. We couldn't find anyone. We tried emergency services. We called about 6 ministries, but we couldn't really find anyone to. At the end, they said, okay, maybe someone from foreign ministry. We said, okay, we get more chances, like internship in the European Office of Haidat and places like that, but let's make others participate. So we suggested tourism ministry, and there were a few people there, and one of them got selected and is now doing internship in LA as I speak here. So these are the things that we also have to do our home task to be able to reciprocate this project, to be a reliable partner in what we want to do together. It is very important that when we look at Artsakh, we don't look at Artsakh in an elective way, if I can put it that way. We can't really be elective when it comes to working for Artsakh or in Artsakh, because it's about survival, and it is a must. We don't really have many choices. Otherwise, and I want to remember by summing up that it was Garegi Najdeh that noted the importance of the Lerna in Hayastan for the security of the whole Hayastan. And it was then Monte who said, and I'm quoting, that if we lose Artsakh, we'll close the last page of our history. So what I want us to do, I want us not to allow us to close that page, but do everything possible so that we can actually have next pages of Artsakh together. And the fact that you're sitting here, I believe that every individual is interested in doing something. And usually it's not about leadership arrangements only that help. It's actually about people. It's one individual meeting another individual, and a spark comes out of it, and the project is born. And there are so many examples of this. Like we have Amasya here, who is sitting very modestly, but his introduction to Artsakh started with an internship. He came as a volunteer with Armenian Volunteer Corps, worked at the Foreign Ministry for a month, translated the whole website, which was this thick, of the National Assembly page, the first National Assembly web page. And sometime later, we discovered that Amasya is working at Hallow Trust in Artsakh. So this is one person's involvement that brought about a qualitative change to the lives of so many. And this could be an example for everyone to follow. Artsakh could be a place where you can realize your dreams. And we all will only win from that. That much. Thank you.